called a 6-in-1 because you have 2 tips, one Phillips, one fat Phillips number 2, I think, and another fat flathead, and then you have the socket here, which is 5/16. So you can go.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
All right, here we are at another kitchen sink installation. Got a nice Kraus faucet, and the countertops are thin. That's some kind of handmade Korean. No worries. Let's get this installed. Try my hand at talking to the camera while I do all this. I like the Kraus faucets. I do like these faucets quite a bit, actually. They're decent faucets for a good price. They have this nice rubber gasketing that's built right into the base, so you don't have to use putty or silicone or anything like that. And you just fish all your lines straight through the hole. Giggity. Giggity googa! And then we go underneath and just leave it loose like that for right now. And you can see the base of the faucet there. You know what? Let's get that other flashlight in here so it's a little lighter. All right, so there's 3 parts to these faucets. I do like these faucets a lot because you can tighten them down. With a screwdriver, you don't need to have a socket or try to get your channel locks or something up into a tight space. The screwdriver is so much more adept for these kinds of jobs. And we have a rubber gasket, a metal washer, and the actual nut that screws onto the threads with the 2 set screws that are going to be the tightening mechanism overall. So you want to straighten out your lines, and the rubber gasket goes first. That rubber gasket's going to go against the countertop. So it's supposed to protect the stone or whatever you have for your counter so it doesn't have so much impact or tightening, force to crack it. It's going to help preserve it just a little bit. So rubber gasket, metal washer, then your threaded nut. All right, and I like to just pull down on the hoses. So the hoses, it pulls the faucet tight against the counter, and just push the washers out of your way. And then I back up the nut just a little bit until I feel a little click. Sometimes you'll hear it. There, we got it. And on these thinner countertops, the stone countertops is not so critical, but these thinner ones, you definitely want to use that rubber gasket to help protect that surface just a little bit more. All right, and I like to tighten it down as much as I possibly can, where it's nice and snug, and then I'll go pull my fat ass off the ground here, and we'll straighten the faucet out. So I like to straighten the faucet by looking at the plane. So if you think of the faucet, this handle going off to the side, that's a straight edge. So you want to match this straight edge with the surface of this countertop or the back wall or whatever straight edge you have access to. But you just want to turn, and now that it's snug, it'll stay put. When you turn it, it won't move on you. But you can look right down on the faucet and try to line it up with the surface of either the back wall here, or against the countertop here. If they're parallel lines, that's better. It's better. It's gonna look a lot nicer that way.
Get some fucking glasses.
I'm a little off. I'm too busy messing with the camera. I'm not focusing on my job. That's a lot better. Okay, now you can look and see what I'm talking about. With the edge of the countertop, you look and you see your faucet is parallel with that edge of the countertop. That's the best look for it, in my experience. Then we go back down underneath. And we tighten up those 2 And you don't want to over tighten one screw over the other. So if you do that, the faucet can get crooked up top. So you want to go just a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other, then back to the first side. Then you can tighten it down pretty tight. And then you go back to this side and give it the final squeeze. There, faucet's done. Tighten to the countertop at least. And then we want to take a look at these valves here. This one has, that's a 1/2 inch, that's 1/2 inch copper, that's 5/8 compression by 1/2 inch compression or 1/2 inch thread. On this guy, they have an adapter on top of this one. Since we're not scheduled to replace this valve, we're just going to pull this guy off the adapter and reuse this adapter. It's fine. But Lord knows, if you touch this adapter and you move it in any way, you have to replace it, or you have to replace the valve, because it's not going to, it's probably going to leak on you. And the water lines, you have the hose going down, so the pull hose comes down straight and then it ties back into this hose over here. So the water lines you want to make sure are out of the way as much as possible. So I like to loop them and kind of pull them out of the way so that this pull hose isn't impeded and it has a clear shot to get pulled out without any interference, as little as possible. And then we have the hot side over here, same deal. This guy doesn't have an adapter on it. Oops, I'm fucking stupid. Trying to fucking tighten the damn thing. Forgive my potty mouth, I'm a plumber, that's what we do. But again, try to loop that hose kind of out of the way of that pull hose. We don't want anything to interfere with that pull hose. And that hose and that weight will get caught on things that it might be in the way, so. The trick is not to be in the way. And these kind of nuts for the water lines, you don't need to over tighten them, but I like to give them a good snug, but you gotta hold that hose to make sure it doesn't rotate on you. But you kind of have to do it a few times and get the feel for it to know how tight they're supposed to be. All right, then these two little tabs will go against these push locking mechanism here. So I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but you want to line up the locking mechanism and the tabs and then push it together until it clicks. Until it clicks!
Firmly grasp it! That'll do it.
Come on, click, there we go. Now the weight, the pull hose will roughly sit right here. Let's back this up a little bit so you can see a little better. We're not so close to the action. But the pull hose will sit right about here. They have a little sticker that says weight goes here. And indeed the weight should go there in a perfect world. But oftentimes you'll notice that you'll have an angle stop that's too close. It's, you know, right against the hose. In those cases, if you have something that's protruding out of the wall, I don't like to put the weight below that. I like to put the weight above that. So it shortens the length that you can pull the hose down, but the weight won't get caught up on some BS under the sink. And in this case, there's no BS to speak of, so we can put the weight right where the recommended position is. So we snap that little guy right over the hose, and then this weight has a little channel that fits over it, and it just slides down and kind of locks itself in place. And there's a direction, pull that back up so you can see, it says up. So that little taper will sit on the bottom of the weight. And if you put that backwards, the weight could just fall right off. But it needs to, gravity, hold that thing in position for us. All right, and I kind of like to just turn the water lines on if we have nothing else going here, just to test everything and make sure there's no drippy drips before we have all the drain lines in position. Now the sink comes with a couple of basket strainers. It came with 2 of them, and you can install 2 of them. We're going to install a garbage disposal because that's just how California is. Everybody's got a garbage disposal. I know certain parts of the world don't have garbage disposals, don't like them. I can go either way, it doesn't matter to me. Just don't treat them like a trash can, and don't throw trash down them, and they're fine. I'd rather have one than not. And we're gonna put the garbage disposal on the right-hand side, so we're gonna put this basket strainer on the left. And it came with this little foam gasket that's supposed to sit here. You can use that. I kind of prefer putty, but for these basket strainers, you don't need that much putty. You only need a little bit of putty. And I just like to warm the putty up in your hand and then just roll it up. Like you're working Play-Doh in the 3rd grade and everybody made snakes. You know how it is. Stretch it out. All right, a nice thin layer. Now, I want to put more on the garbage disposal side than I do on the basket strainer side. And the reason for that is because these basket strainers, 1, they don't need that much anyway, but 2, there's a single point of contact on these basket strainers, this style, where you have this nut that goes through the center and tightens down through the center. So this one nut is going on a plastic. You see this is a plastic body. It's got the metal insert, but it's still on a plastic frame. So you don't want to over tighten that either. So if you put too much putty, you have to tighten it down a little bit more to make it squeeze that putty out of there. So you want to do as little putty as possible. I still like putty better than the foam gaskets. I just push the putty as much as possible over the edges. I like to see a nice layer of putty protruding around the outer edge the whole way. And then I like straight lines, okay? Some people just put them all willy-nilly. You can put it like this, any position you want, but just make sure your lines are square. I like to have a nice straight line pointing up and down. So I push that in, try to hold it as straight as possible, try to center it up as much as possible, and then I'll go from the bottom with one hand and line up the strainer, and that strainer body has a rubber gasket that fits right here. Make sure that's in position and seated properly. Sometimes they'll unseat and it'll be hard for it to seal. But when we move that guy right to the bottom, and then we just do one of these numbers until we see a finish line, or we see God, whichever comes first. And you can hold this and tighten it down from the bottom a little bit. But then again, straight lines, so you want to line up the body with the top so it looks good. All right, now we're going to tighten it down just a little bit. And if you can get like a scraper or a wide screwdriver that can reach all the way across to get both sides of this as you tighten it down, that's a lot better than getting one side, let me tell you. All right, now that that's a little tight, we're gonna pull this putty off and make sure we're centered in the hole. So if we're out of center, now would be the time to move it. It looks like we're just barely out of center. The bottom edge feels to my finger like it's just a little higher than the top edge. So I don't think I'll ever tighten it too much. I can push a little bit from the bottom and center it up just a little better. And again, straight lines. You want that that notch, that cutout, to be in line somewhere. It can go this way, it can go this way. Just make sure it's straight. Make it look good. Take a little pride in what you do. That looks like shit.
I think it's total shit.
Tighten it down some more. Okay, that's better. All right, I'll take my fingernail and I'll scrape out whatever little dregs might be coming through. And I've already fucked up because now this side's a little higher than this side. It's not quite square. I can live with it. It's not the end of the world. I'm not that much of a perfectionist. All right, now, same deal with the garbage disposal. Actually, let's touch on that garbage disposal. Here, I kind of want to do a full video on different garbage disposals and pros and cons thereof. But you can get this guy on Amazon for 70 bucks in my area, at least. And for 70 USD, this is a damn good deal for 70 USD, all right?
How about you bitch? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
So, pros and cons of this one. It's got paperwork. It's got their connections. Let's set her down. So every garbage disposal should come. It has a little. I like this too. Okay, there's lots to go over here. Lots to talk about. One, it has the standard 3-bolt pattern for the mounting bracket, mounting hardware, and it has the standard locking ring that is Incinerator made this very popular. It has nice laser etched writing, which I don't like. I'd rather have it stamped, but you know, it's not the end of the world. And waste made, I'd rather not have anything really. I'd rather just have a clean surface, but it is what it is. That's what comes with it. The nice thing about this guy, I mean, it's what you're gonna see at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's kind of the same, like their base model. It's got a little plug knockout for the dishwasher. That should go there for the discharge, and we'll knock that out in a second. But it actually has stainless steel internals. Everything is stainless steel in there. So the blades, the grinding plate, everything is stainless steel. So for 70 bucks for a fully stainless steel enclosure or internals, that's really good. Because even Incinerator, their base model comes with a carbon steel. The blades are actually stainless, but for Incinerator, their Badger series, their Badger 5 or half horsepower, third horsepower, actually comes with a carbon steel grinding plate. That's that plate at the base. So the blades on top that swish back and forth, the plate actually spins and the blades move back and forth to cut the food up as it spins. But I've seen more Incinerators fail from a poor, rusted out grinding plate than anything else. And it really hurts the life of the unit. The units only last about 6-7 years with a carbon steel grinding plate versus a stainless steel one, which lasts about 10 to 15. So for the price, very good unit. For 70 bucks, you cannot beat that. I love that it has the little guard so the prongs can't get bent. And it probably is gonna, depending if you're in Europe or if you have 220 or something, it's gonna look a little different, but this is just what I have to show you. All right, so there is a great little unit for 70 bucks. Can't beat it. And we're just going to loosen the 3 bolts here and take this apart. And now that that's loose, the locking ring is, you can get to it. Just take a screwdriver and pop it up and peel it off. And it just pops right off. And don't ever stretch these locking rings out. Don't try to yank them apart and get them on there because you're gonna screw it up. They're not meant for that. You take that part off, that will go underneath, and this piece right here, again, just like the rubber gasket for the faucet is underneath, there's this paper gasket for the sink that's gonna go on against the bottom to protect the sink as well. But the only thing that goes on top here is, this is called the flange, and then you have your putty that goes on top. Let's see if I have enough putty. I don't have enough putty. I'll be right back. We have the plumber's putty, and I like to use this Odie stain-free. I like the stain-free the best. It doesn't feel as... Well, one, stain-free just means that you can use it on any surface. So you could use it on this countertop if you needed to, in addition to the stainless steel sink. And so if you use regular plumber's putty that's not stain-free, as you put it on the surface, over time, the oils that are in the plumber's putty will start to stain and seep out and stain the surface. So you can't use it on stone or any kind of sensitive surface like that. Stain-free, you can use it anywhere. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it really pays for itself, so your guys don't mess up and ruin a $20,000 countertop, you know? But I have a brand new container here of the Odie stain-free plumber's putty. I also have this Black Swan bullshit from Home Depot. I don't know what kind of deal that Home Depot made, but they got rid of the Odie and they only sell this Black Swan crap that is absolutely horse shit compared to the Odie. The Odie, oh yeah, it's beautiful. It just comes right out. It doesn't stick to my hands. It just feels a lot better. And this shit, so let's just open this real quick. Whatever this bullshit is, it sticks so much worse. I can't, it might be stain free, but it smears on surfaces. Okay? And so as it squeezes out, you have to brush that away, and it's so fucking hard to clean. It's so hard to clean. I have to use blue shop towels to get that shit off. And now I'm kind of upset with myself that I just did that, because now it's a pain in the fucking ass. Look at that shit. Good God, I gotta get a blue shop towel. I gotta get a blue shop towel. All right, I got blue shop towels, and look at that nonsense. It's still there. You gotta wipe it off with a freaking shop towel just to make it presentable. It's so much extra work. So Black Swan, no fucking thanks. I don't know what formula you're using, but it's bullshit. That belongs in the goddamn trash. All right, but this Odie stuff does not do that. You push it on the surface, push it on there, and it just comes right off, and it pulls right off your fingers. It doesn't, and with the Black Swan, your fingers and your hands after using it feel kind of, there's something on there that you just can't get off. This shit doesn't do that, any of that. That's why I like using Odies over the Black Swan. So again, like you're making a snake. And we do a little thicker. This time, I like to do thicker and make sure that it gets full penetration, giggity.
Did you really see that? Or was it just an excuse to say giggity?
Around the entire, oops. That's okay. You just push it into itself, it'll be fine. But I like to get the garbage disposal side with a thicker layer, and it'll squeeze out more. Just because you have that 3-bolt pattern underneath, it tightens the absolute hell out of this stuff. So you're gonna get full penetration on it without any trouble. So there's less risk that way. But same thing applies here. Make sure your writing is pointing up, and then see if you can center it up in the hole as much as possible. It's really hard to tell if you're centered in the hole until you start tightening it down. So let's go underneath. All right. You can kind of see the putty squeezing out there. That's what we want. But paper first. Paper goes first. And then this giant plate goes next. And then your, I don't even know what to call that thing. But you gotta hold it down with one hand and then put this ring on with the other. I like to hold the ring with one finger. With this finger right here, I'll hold it in position, and then I'll use the other finger and push it against the body itself and just go all the way around until it snaps in place. And then you gotta tighten your bolts down all the way. All right, we'll give this a snug. Not too much, but enough. Enough to squeeze out that putty. I think that's enough. All right, now let's look back up here at the top. And you'll see the putty started to squeeze out. So we'll push that putty over, get it out of the way. And again, look at your center and see and make sure that you're there. And right now you can still move this thing, and we can see that we're a little offset. It's deeper on this side than it is this side. The writing doesn't look too bad. I think I can live with the writing. The writing still looks at the top. But you gotta pull it this way just a little bit. You know what? That writing doesn't look that good after all.
I think it's total shit.
And then we can actually rotate it just a little bit. Straighten the writing out. And I'll give it a little shake to squeeze the putty out of the edges a little more. Get her down just a little bit more. And make sure we're at the same level. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we can just tighten it up. And these bolts, it's impossible to do it wrong. Just go a little bit here, a little bit there, and go around again. And pretty soon you'll start, oops, see, we're starting to slip. Let's go ahead and flip this to flathead. All my electrician friends will tell you that you can get it tighter with a flathead than you can a Phillips, and they're absolutely right. All right, now you'll see putty right there around, and you can go ahead and pick that off with your finger all the way around. And you can save that. That putty is still good. Good for the next one. I do enough of these where I use the putty. I use the shit out of the putty. As I am team putty, I will not use silicone unless I absolutely have to. And the reason I don't like silicone is because it makes it super hard to get off. And I like to be nice to the next guy, because usually the next guy's me. And you can see that putty all the way around. Same deal. Just peel it off with your fingers. And I like to keep my pinky nail, I like to keep it a little longer. And that's not just for picking my nose. I use it to scrape that edge around the side. You can use your thumb, pinky, whatever. If you have slightly long nails, it'll work. You can even use a razor blade. If you're very careful, you can go around the edge. You see? And make a cut and get that super clean, but you have to be super careful. You don't want to scratch anything with your razor blade. It's best just to stick with your pinky. All right, now that's done. Writing looks good, pretty well centered, pretty well centered. All right, now let's get the dishwasher drain done. And I like to do these a certain way. And here, in the state of California, air gaps are required, okay? What an air gap is an indirect waste. So if you ever see drains where you have the level of the drain and you have a pipe coming right over it and there's an inch of space between that pipe and the top of the drain, that's called an indirect waste. And what that does is it makes sure that if there's ever a backflow, if there's ever a blockage in the pipe, the drain water comes up and overflows before it can reach that pipe, okay? And that prevents contaminated water from potentially siphoning its way back into any system and contaminating city water supply. So this is actually a protection for city water supply, because you have your inlet pipe that comes out and then it pushes right back down and goes down the drain. But if there's ever a backup out of the drain, that water will come up here and it'll spill out of this hole right here. All right, so if you have water coming out of here, that means you have a stoppage somewhere in the hose, a kink in the hose, buildup in the hose, something in the hose. And or maybe you just didn't knock out the plug on your garbage disposal. I've seen that many times. But this will prevent water from making its way back down into the dishwasher and potentially siphoning it into the city water supply and then poisoning the whole city water supply. It's extreme, but codes are there for a reason, right? So we gotta obey the code. And on a side note, if you do the bare minimum, which is code requirements, okay? That means you're doing the sorriest ass job you can possibly do. So if you're following the code and you're only doing the code, you're doing the sorriest job. It's just a fact. So I like to hold it up to the bottom of the countertop and see where the thickness is, and then see where the threads are, and I can line up kind of where the bottom of the nut should be. So let's go up a little bit. And I think this rubber gasket, I've never actually been sure if it goes on top or bottom of the counter. If you have it on top, it looks like shit, all right? You're gonna see this on top. And that looks like almighty hell. And the fact that this will turn yellow over time. I like to put it on the bottom. It still makes a seal, but it looks a lot nicer as well. So that's how I like to do it. And in this case, if you're a one-man show, I'm gonna teach you a trick that's gonna make this super easy. So, here we have our dishwasher hose, and that's already been cut to the 5/8. So hoses right out of the box will have a tapered edge to them, and they'll blow up to 7/8. The 7/8 goes right to the garbage disposal. Oh, sorry. Right to the garbage disposal, all right? So if this wasn't cut, you'd be able to shove that right on there and then connect it with the hose clamp. But this has already been cut to 5/8 because we have air gap requirements in the state of California. So this is the inlet that's coming from the dishwasher. Jam it in there as tight as you can. And don't worry too much about the positioning of the clamp. I like to put the clamp facing the outer edges so they don't interfere with each other. Because you're gonna have two clamps on this thing, one here and then one on the drain side. So let's push this up just a little bit. Right there. Give her a tight down. We don't want to over tighten it because this hose clamp will crush that plastic body. That's the last thing we want, is to waste money. Okay, now we get our 7/8 heater hose. All right, I have a whole roll of this shit because I do so many of these. You can buy these at the supply house. You can buy this by the foot at the supply house. You can buy this at Home Depot too. It's just more expensive. But then we'll go ahead and, where's my clamp? There we go. Roll this guy with a new clamp right here. And then push it right on there. All the way up. And tighten that down. It's 5/16 by the way. I have this 6-in-1 screwdriver that goes with me everywhere, and if I leave it somewhere, it was only $7 at Home Depot. Not the end of the world. Should make a video about which tools to spend money on and which tools to not give a shit about. And that's one of them. All right, now we're gonna do this from the top. We're only one person, right? So we're gonna take this and we're gonna fish it through from the bottom with one hand because we have the hose, so we can grip it by the hose and push it up around the sink. So, observe. We're gonna roll this hose around the corner. All right. Use our finger to find it and fish it through, and then hold it from the other side. And that's how you put an air gap on, okay? And it's also a lot easier if you're doing maintenance and you see, let's come over here. Come over here. The threads are just barely sticking out of the top of this right here. I don't like that too much. I like the threads to be just below it, not just above it, because this cap has to sit on top as well, which it does. It should be fine, but I like to give a little bit more distance. So we're going to unscrew that. We're going to unscrew it and pull it back down. And make our adjustments. So now that we can pull it out easily, it's easy to make your adjustments and just screw it up a little bit. And then do the same process. It's not a big deal. Just fish it through. There. Now, we can leave that alone for right now. Come down here. Now this hose is all spaghettied up. That's gonna be a pain in the butt. We're gonna leave it because this hose is kind of a giant pain in the ass.
Perfect.
Now, the reason I like to put the garbage disposal on the right-hand side of the sink is because our air gap is on the left. I like to have it on the opposite side of your air gap, so that way the hose has a nice straight shot over to the drain, all right? And it's not gonna kink on us, it's not going to, you don't have to bend it around and try to make a weird 90-degree angle. It's best for the drain line, and the water won't have any issues in the future doing it this way. So, just gonna hold that hose up, and we're gonna cut it just slightly long, and we'll cut it back down later. But I don't need this giant hose in the way in the meantime. I'll use the rest of this later. And let's go ahead and knock out that plug before we forget. You have your garbage disposal, and there's a plug right in the drain. And there she is. Make sure that comes out before you connect that hose. Another thing I like about these waste-made garbage disposals is that this waste arm, has the gasket already built into it. And this gasket actually wraps around the flange. You see that flanged 90 there? That's gonna sit right here. Well, this gasket has a little groove. It's hard to see without the flashlight. Give me a sec. But you see that groove that's built into there? That's for that flange to sit comfortably in. So there's no issues with sealing. So InSinkErator, name brand in the industry, right? Big, everybody knows that one. They have just a flat gasket. Good Lord. This one's a little more a pain in the ass, but it's a lot more secure, I guarantee it.
Would I lie?
All right, so just kind of fit it around that flanged edge, and you can have the tapered edge on the back, and this will go right up against that, and you'll never have an issue with sealing. So we'll go ahead and put this in right now. InSinkErator just is a flat one, and it sandwiches right between the body of the garbage disposal and the flange of the 90. And it's secure. I've actually very rarely have I seen one leak, and it's for installation errors only. So it's a good system. I just think this is a little bit better. And it's, for the price you're paying for this unit, it's absolutely worth its money. It's a half horsepower. It's not a third horsepower, it's a full half horsepower. I like to snug these up just a little bit. And then I'll straighten this pipe in line with the body as much as possible. And tighten it down fully. See that rubber squeezing out of there? Shit ain't gonna leak. All right. Now, let's get this garbage disposal installed. So I'll grip it right by this guy if I need to. You can hold it up with that. But I'll also put my hand underneath it like that. I can hold this up and push it with my elbow against the bottom of the floor, and I can push it just like a little weight. It's not that heavy. It's only a couple pounds. I mean, what is it, 6, 7 pounds maybe? So you push this up and line up your gasket. This gasket has to line up with that edge. Try that again. This gasket has to line up with that edge right there. So we push it up, and don't worry about where this is going to be because we can adjust that later. But these tabs will lock in on this ring here, okay? And then it'll slide over. It'll just rotate up and lock it in position. So just make sure the tabs are kind of lined up, and then roll it over. And now you can let go. It's holding its own weight. And just feel with your finger. There's 3 tabs. Just make sure every tab is above that line. Sometimes you'll get one tab that hasn't quite made it, and it'll get messed up. And we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and tighten this down now. Squeeze that with channel locks. Tighten that up. And now that that's tight, we can actually rotate this around fairly easily. Not every model will let you do this. Most models will. We're going to line this up right here. So you see that pipe right behind it? That's our drain line. So we're going to have to adjust that as well and try to keep this nice and tight. But we're going to go right about there, I think. And we're going to roll this hose up. This dishwasher hose. And now we have a straight shot to that garbage disposal. And it actually looks pretty good as far as the length. I think it's perfect. Put your clamp on it. And roll it on there.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Uh-oh.
All right. And the 6-in-1 is called a 6-in-1 because you have 2 tips, 1 Phillips, 1 fat Phillips number 2, I think, and another fat flathead, and then you have the socket here, which is 5/16. So you can go,
Firmly grasp it! That'll do it.
And then the other side, which is a smaller flathead, smaller Phillips, and a 1/4 inch socket there. So 3 there, so a 6-in-1. We do have a straight shot for this hose, and you can see the pull hose is unimpeded for the faucet. We can actually pull the faucet. And our dishwasher is not giving us any trouble. Nothing's giving us any trouble except for this hot hose, which we could actually roll this hot hose around this heater hose if we wanted to be super plumbers, but we're not going to do that because we're not super plumbers. Now we're going to work on this drain and working on getting this drain perfect. In a perfect world, we would have put the garbage disposal on the other side and this drain would have lined up with this side perfectly. But I'd rather have an unkinked dishwasher hose than the garbage disposal on the other side. So it's just a little easier on the dishwasher that way. And we'll move the drain on this side here. We'll put a 22, I think, here. No, we're gonna cut that back more. We can see it's not gonna line up. You just gotta line it up. We're gonna eyeball it. All right, come in here with me. You're in the way. Not too bad. Pretty straight cut, all things considered. Okay. We'll take our fancy. Ow, you motherfucker! That hurt. Ow! Motherfucker. Son of a bitch. Alright. I'm fucking bleeding now. Alright. Take our fancy pantsy deburring tool. I can't see through the garbage disposal. And we'll just deburr this pipe real quick. I don't have my deburring tool with me, so we're just going to deburr it that way. Alright. Is that enough? I'm going to put this back on here. Oh yeah, that's enough. Maybe a little more. Look at it from my side. From my angle. We want this pipe to be lining up with this pipe. That's the whole point, okay? We're pretty damn close. But honestly, the swing of the trap is about 1.5 to 2 inches. So we can catch it, and we want to be away from this body a little bit more. So I think we're going to cut it back just a little bit more. We're going to get a different 22. This is a 45 back here. I'm installing a 22 to try to line this up a little closer. We can do a true 45 actually. You know what? Let's switch it to a 45. Let's see how that works. All right, now we got a little bit longer pipe. We're going to put it in the 45 right here, just so we can see how it lines up. And we're going to put that 45 loosely on this pipe. Oh yeah, much better. Yeah, we'll leave it just like that. And we're gonna leave it right about there, I think. So, come with me. Come with me if you want to live. All right. Not too bad. I mean, it could be better, but it could be worse too. Fancy deburring tool. I know. Shout out to Plumber Jack for using that fancy routing tool for all his installations. I'm not that fancy. He does more rough-ins than I do. I like these Dearborn brass plastic traps. My favorite. With the box, I'll close the box back up after I've emptied it, and I'll put it under my work area. So any glue drips will land on the box instead of my workspace. Let's move this out of the way. All right. Ow, son of a bitch, it happened again. That fucking hurt. All right, these Dearborn brass come with a trap adapter as well, which we're gonna glue right on there. I'm gonna use this one? Yes, we're gonna use this one. Sometimes doing this for YouTube, it's hard because you have to try not to get in the way of the camera, and you put yourself in awkward positions trying to get this done. Give it a little twist, hold it for a few seconds so it doesn't try to pop out on you. And we'll do the trap adapter. I'm confident it's going to be in the right spot, but that's just, 20 years of experience talking. Push that on there, give it a twist. Smear that shit on that box, because that's what I got the box there for anyway. And we'll do one more. And we'll roll it down, eyeballed, of course, eyeballed. How much fall do you think that is? Too much? I don't know. I'm looking at it from this side, you're looking at it from that side. Let's see who's right. It's too much. It's too much. See if I can give it just a little bit less. Oh, it's already stuck. Oh well, it's not too much, I guess. Not too much after all. Better too much than too little. It is too much though, right? Yeah, that's too much. Not bad. Could be worse. Leave that under there. Alright. Now, let's look at it from this side. You can see what I was looking at. Now we'll take our trap. First nut goes down like this. Second nut goes back, facing the opposite direction. And your taper, the fat part of the taper goes to the back of the nut, all right? So it's gonna push, this nut's gonna push that gasket into the joint, all right? These are called slip joints because they slip in and out. I have liked these slip joint traps because they're easy to take apart and they tend to have very little leaks. All right, we're just going to shove that in there. Not too bad. All right, and we're gonna get our 2-part waste for these dual basin sinks. We're gonna need a 2-part waste and outlet waste. All right, I've always called them 2-part waste, but let's call them by their proper name, shall we? But this guy's got to sit right here, all right? So we've got to cut this lower and we got to cut this higher. So let's go ahead and use our handy dandy notebook here. Let's not cut any hoses. Let's get the hoses out of the way. Let's cut this guy in place. Push this hose out of the way. There. All right, now that that's higher, we gotta cut this lower. So let's fully seat that T, then hold this trap where it's gonna be. Then use my thumb to mark where it's gonna sit in the trap, right there. And then I'm gonna need the cutters. Put the blade right next to my thumb. Don't cut my thumb. And then slice and rotate at the same time so it starts to cut into the tubular. And you can really only do this. This is a pair of PEX cutters, by the way. And you can really only do this with brand new tubular stuff. That's very thin, so you can cut that pretty easily with the PEX cutters. And this is I've dedicated this pair of PEX cutters to tubular drainage. So I don't use these cutters on, I have a separate pair of PEX cutters for PEX. Just because I don't want the blade to get messed up by this stuff and then mess up on the PEX and then cause a leak. Long shot, but it happens. All right. Now we're gonna stick a washer, a nut and washer here. And the nut and washer here. Stick this on the trap. Push this up, make sure it's seated all the way. All right. We're gonna tighten all that up. Now, we're gonna point that at the other side of the sink. Now this basket strainer also came with a nut and a gasket, which I'm going to use. So this guy can stay here, and our gasket goes right on top. Put your gasket on when you're taking measurements because the thickness of the gasket will factor into your cut length as well. Tighten that up. Then I'll take this guy and I'll push it right next to him and I'll hold it up so it's sloped down a little ways. Then I'll take my thumb and I'll mark it right at the top line of that pipe, and that'll be perfect for the depth of this. All right, so I'll hold my thumb on that and take it back apart. Fuck that gasket for right now. Again, put your blade next to your thumb and then move your thumb out of the way once you've got it tight, and then grip it with this hand and then rotate your cutters. All right, gasket goes back in. Oh man, bad timing. I'm right in the middle of something. All right, so now I'll have this guy and I'll point it right next to the other one, and then I'll hold my thumb, again, right at the edge of where it's gonna be seated inside this hub. And again, put your blade right next to your thumb, move your thumb out of the fucking way, and then rotate the pipe while you cut. And see, we have all the gaskets and nuts right there in the box with that Dearborn stuff. Ta-da! All right. Yeah. And with these T's, what I just did, well, like grunting and groaning, I didn't think to let the camera see what I was doing, but I was pushing these tabs out of the way so these tabs can tighten down. So there's no tabs hitting tabs. All right, now that that's done, we're all hooked up, everything's tight. I think we're ready to test. All right, let's test her up. So now, in testing, you just gotta pull your head off your new faucet, because that'll get clogged up. Put that off to the side, and open the water up. Hot and cold. Put this head back on. Test. Turn this off while I'm talking. They have a stopper that has a nice flat surface, so this post fits right in that little hole that we made there, that nut, and that ball bearing sits on top of that. So it just sits right there, and that's open. That's technically open. And the water will drain down. And if you need to stop it up, you push it down, and it stops up. And it has a nice flat level surface that you can work with as well. It looks a lot cleaner. I like it. And for the garbage disposal side, this part, this is the stopper. This part is called the baffle. And that, if you look straight down, you can see the blades down there. And we don't want to see the blades. We don't want anything falling down there very easily. So the baffle, one, helps deaden the noise, but two, it keeps stuff from falling down that's not supposed to go down there. It's also a little safer. You can't see the blades, but it just fits right in the groove. There's a groove at the base of that. And then your stopper fits on top of that. For this waste made. It could be different for different models, but for this model, that's how this works. Sometimes the baffles are built right into the gasket on the garbage disposal itself, but in this case, we have a top mount baffle. And now we just have to wait for this thing to fill up. And while that's filling up, I'm going to clean up. And maximize my time. Good enough. All right. Running the dishwasher too while we're at it. That's in use. There she goes. In the meantime, this is the light switch. Yeah, that's the garbage disposal. Let's do this. Okay, check it out below. Oh no, we have a leak. We have a leak. My girly man hands weren't quite enough to tighten that one down, I see. The leak was right there on that nut. So we're going to take our oil filter wrench and then give this a little snug down. Then see what else we got. But this is why we do this, is to find these little leaks that may or may not pop up. If you just ran some water down the drain, it might not be enough to trigger a leak like that. All right, we'll wait some more. And this sink came with these nice little grates. And it has extra bumpers. You see these bumpers on the sides all around. If you use these without your bumpers in place, it'll scratch your sink. So you want to make sure those are in place and you have extras. So if they fall off or rot away, you want to replace those. That'll keep dishes off the bottom of your sink, and they look nice. Good enough. All right, here we go. Let's try again. It's still leaking. This trap is giving me trouble today. Meantime, let's go ahead and test this. Oh. Yeah, that's draining right now. And our nice new dishwasher hose going right in there. Any issues? Not anymore. You still have a bit. And if you don't like this little flapper lid, you can just pull it right off. And it turns into a regular stopper. That clips right on there. All right, she's done. See you on the next one.